Welcome back to my channel. Learn English by listening story. Today title is The Old Man and His Last Letter. It was a cold winter morning in a quiet hill town. The streets were almost empty, and the fog hung low, wrapping everything in silence. At the corner of a small tea shop sat an old man, thin, wrinkled, and dressed in a worn brown coat. Every morning, he came there with the same routine: a cup of tea, a notebook, and a pen. People called him Postmaster Uncle. Nobody knew his real name anymore. He had retired from the postal service years ago, but he still wrote letters every single day, not for others, but for himself. He would write, fold the paper carefully, put it in an envelope, and then tuck it inside a small wooden box. No one knew what was inside that box. Some said he wrote to his dead wife. Some said he wrote to a son who never came back. But nobody ever asked him, because his eyes always looked tired, like they had already told 1,000 stories. One day, a young boy named Oriv moved into the neighborhood. He was curious, full of questions, and always exploring. He noticed the old man at the tea stall every morning. One day, he walked up to him and said, "Uncle, who are you writing to every day?" The old man looked up, smiled gently, and said, "To someone who still listens." Oriv frowned. "But, who is that?" The old man chuckled softly. "You'll understand when you grow older." Days passed. Oriv kept visiting him every morning. They became unlikely friends, a lonely old man and a curious young boy. Oriv started helping him carry his letters, and in return, the old man told him stories about mountains, rivers, lost love, and forgotten people. But one story stayed with Oriv. The old man once said, "Once upon a time, I was in love. Her name was Mira. She was the light of my life. But one mistake, one stubborn moment, and I lost her forever." Oriv asked softly, "Did she go away?" The old man looked at the sky and said, "No. She waited. I was the one who left." That night, Oriv couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the letters. Who were they really for? Weeks went by, and the winter deepened. One morning, Oriv didn't see the old man at the tea shop. He waited for hours, but he didn't come. The next day, still no sign. Finally, Oriv went to the postmaster's house. The door was slightly open. He stepped inside. The room was small, filled with books, old photographs, and that same wooden box lying on the table. And there, in the chair by the window, sat the old man, silent, peaceful, and still. He had passed away in his sleep. Oriv stood frozen for a long moment. Then his eyes fell on the wooden box. He hesitated, but something inside him said, "Open it." He slowly lifted the lid. Inside were hundreds of letters, all neatly tied with a red ribbon. Each envelope had the same name written on it, Mira. His hands trembled as he opened one. It read, "My dearest Mira, I hope wherever you are, the mornings are still bright and the tea is still sweet. I still sit by our window every day, waiting for the sound of your laughter. You may be gone from my sight, but you're still the reason my heart beats." Oriv felt his throat tighten. He kept reading. Every letter was written to the same woman, words of love, regret, apology, and longing. The last one was dated just a day before the old man's death. It said, "My love, I think it's time for my last journey. If there is another world beyond this one, I'll find you there. And this time, I promise I won't let go." Tears rolled down Oriv's cheeks. He sat there for hours, reading the letters one by one. Each word felt like a heartbeat from the past. When the funeral was held the next day, Oriv placed that wooden box beside the old man's coffin. He whispered, "She waited long enough, Uncle. It's time for you to deliver your last letter." Years passed. Oriv grew up, went to college, and eventually became a writer. But he never forgot the old man or the letters. He started writing too, not emails, not texts, real letters. He wrote to his friends, his parents, and sometimes to people he had never met. And in every letter, he began with the same line. "To someone who still listens." People started loving his words. He published a book titled Letters to Mira. It became famous not because it was perfect, but because it was real. In every page, he shared something he learned from that old man. That words, when written with honesty, never die. Even when people leave, their stories stay. One day, Oriv received a letter from a stranger. It was written in shaky handwriting. It said, "Dear Oriv, I am Mira. I read your book. And I knew immediately those letters were mine. He kept his promise, you know. He found me." Oriv froze as he read it again and again. There was no return address, no signature, just that one sentence. He smiled through his tears. Maybe it was real, maybe it wasn't. But somehow, he knew love always finds its way, even beyond time. Sometimes, when he missed the old man, Oriv would sit by the same tea stall with a notebook and a pen. The shopkeeper, now older himself, would bring him a cup of tea and say, "You write like him, Beta." Oriv would smile and reply, "No, Uncle. I just deliver the letters he never finished." The wind would blow softly through the hills. And somewhere, it felt like two old souls, a postmaster and his Mira, were finally together again, smiling in peace. And maybe, just maybe, they were still reading those letters. Together, somewhere beyond the clouds. Soft music fades out. The story reminds us. We all have someone we never stopped writing to, even if it's only in our hearts. So don't wait for someday. Say what you feel. Write that letter. Speak those words. Because silence keeps love waiting too long.